The sky above Manhattan was a bright shade of blue, with not a single cloud in sight, but inside the towering glass mansion of billionaire Landon Chase, a storm raged. Back, I said. Back, Landon yelled, backing away from the enormous Rottweiler lunging at the iron gates of the private garden. Growling, snarling, and snapping, the dog, named Titan, was a beast no one dared approach. Over the years, Landon had grown used to power and control. His financial empire stretched across 3 continents. He had everything: private jets, art collections, and even a $10 million penthouse overlooking Central Park. But nothing humbled him more than his late wife's dog, Titan. The beast had become unpredictable since Olivia passed away 2 years ago. He'd bitten 2 professional trainers and terrorized Landon's household staff so much that the garden had to be locked off. Landon, tired and grieving, refused to have the dog put down, clinging to the last living piece of his beloved wife. Then one night at a lavish gala thrown at his estate, a drunken laugh escaped his lips. $1 million, he announced, holding up a glass of bourbon. To anyone in this world who can get that damn dog to calm down. Laughter rippled through the crowd. You're serious? Someone asked. As a heart attack, Landon said. I'll wire it. Right there and then. But let me save you the trouble. No one can. That animal is possessed. The offer went viral. Dog lovers, trainers, behaviorists, even TV personalities showed up, each leaving defeated and sometimes bruised. Weeks passed. Titan only grew more aggressive. Landon had all but given up on his own challenge, until a knock echoed through the iron gate one misty morning. Mr. Chase, asked a calm voice. He peered out the front door to find a woman standing nervously, her hand resting gently on the shoulder of a small girl. The child had long chestnut hair and bright blue eyes that never quite met his. I'm Carol, the woman said, smiling nervously. This is my daughter, Ivy. We heard about your challenge. Ivy. She wants to meet your dog. Landon looked the girl up and down. Ivy couldn't have been older than 8. She clutched a small, worn-out stuffed bunny in her hand, her body stiff, swaying slightly. Listen, lady, Landon sighed. That dog nearly took a chunk out of a Navy vet. I can't let a child near him. Carol nodded. I understand. But Ivy, she's different. She's never connected with people. Not even me. But dogs? Somehow she feels them. We're not here for the money, he raised an eyebrow. You think your daughter, who hasn't said a word to me yet, can tame Titan? Carol glanced at Ivy, who was still quietly swaying. She has autism, but she has this gift. Landon looked past them toward the garden gate. Titan stood behind it now, silent but alert, ears perked. Fine, Landon muttered, but I'm not opening the gate. She can stand at the edge. If he so much as growls, I'm pulling her back. Carol nodded. Ivy didn't speak. She simply walked forward, her bunny dragging in the dirt, her eyes fixed on the waiting dog. And to Landon's astonishment, Titan didn't growl, didn't snarl, didn't even bark. He sat down. Landon Chase stood rooted on the cobblestone path, the breath caught in his throat. Titan, who just yesterday had torn through a steel bowl and lunged at a trainer, was sitting, calm, eyes focused, breathing steady. And Ivy? She hadn't said a single word. She simply stood at the gate, no emotion on her face, her worn-out bunny clutched tight. Her tiny frame seemed almost fragile compared to the massive Rottweiler just a few yards away, but her presence had stilled the air. Carol, Landon said through clenched teeth, what the hell is going on? I told you, her mother whispered. She doesn't speak often. She doesn't make eye contact, but when she's around animals, it's like they understand her. Titan's ears flicked, his nose twitching. Ivy took a slow step closer, then another. Still no reaction from the dog. Landon could hardly believe his eyes. Back away, Ivy, he warned instinctively, voice harsh. That dog is dangerous, but the girl didn't react. Instead, she lowered herself onto the ground cross-legged just outside the gate. Titan tilted his head. She's not hearing you, Carol said softly. When she zones in, it's like nothing else exists. And that's exactly what it looked like. Ivy slowly placed her stuffed bunny beside her and reached into her small backpack. Pulling out, nothing but silence. No treats, no toys, just air. But then she started to hum. It was barely audible. A soft, tuneless sound, shaky and uncertain, but real. Her eyes remained lowered, her fingers twirling at the edge of her sleeve. Landon leaned forward, mesmerized. Titan shifted his weight, tail twitching, not wagging, not bristling, just moving, curious. Then in a move that defied every warning, his instincts screamed, Ivy stood and approached the gate. No, Landon barked, his voice cracking. Stop! You're too close! But Titan didn't lunge. Instead, he took 2 steps forward and pressed his massive head against the bars, waiting. Ivy reached out, tiny fingers through the iron space, and gently touched his muzzle. Landon's legs nearly gave out. Titan closed his eyes. Carol covered her mouth with her hand, trembling. Ivy, Landon said softly, almost pleading now. How are you doing this? The girl didn't respond, but her hand remained on the dog's fur, slowly stroking in rhythm with her humming. Finally, Landon opened the gate. Just a crack. Are you insane? Carol gasped. He shook his head. I want to see something. Ivy didn't even flinch. She stepped through the opening like she'd been walking into her own living room. Titan stepped back politely, allowing her in. The massive dog sat, then laid down, resting his enormous head in her lap. Landon Chase, a man who had screamed at boardrooms, faced death threats over hostile takeovers, and once negotiated $30 million with a single phone call, sank to his knees, speechless. She had done it, not with force, not with command, not with manipulation, but with stillness, with softness, with something Landon hadn't seen in years, purity. I don't get it, he finally whispered. What is she doing that none of us could? Carol joined him at the gate, eyes shimmering. She's not trying to control him, Mr. Chase. She's simply being with him. She sees who he is beneath the noise. For the first time in 2 years, Titan wagged his tail. And then, to everyone's disbelief, Ivy looked up, right at Landon, and said softly but clearly, his heart is sad, just like yours. The air froze. Landon blinked. She spoke? Carol nodded, stunned. She never, I mean, she's never said more than a few words. Not like that. Tears welled up in Landon's eyes. No amount of wealth could explain the feeling building in his chest. For the first time since Olivia's death, he felt it. Hope. Take the million, he said, his voice cracking. It's yours. But Carol shook her head. We didn't come for that. Landon looked at Ivy again, still stroking the dog in silence. Then he realized, maybe this wasn't just about a bet. Maybe it was the beginning of something neither of them saw coming.
That night, the Chase estate was quiet. For once, the usual barking, growling, and frantic pacing of Titan was replaced by a deep, rhythmic breathing. The enormous Rottweiler lay curled beside Ivy on the velvet rug in Landon's sunroom. She had fallen asleep with her hand on his fur, her worn, stuffed bunny tucked under her chin. Landon watched from a distance, arms folded, heart aching in a way he hadn't allowed for years. Carol sat beside him, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea he'd insisted she have. She's never done this, Carol whispered. Not with a person, not with any dog for this long. It's like she found him, and he found her. Landon couldn't stop staring. You know, I've paid the best therapists, the best animal behaviorists. I even had a monk from Tibet fly in. Nothing worked. I thought Titan was too far gone. Carol smiled faintly. He wasn't angry. He was grieving. The billionaire closed his eyes and nodded slowly. Just like me. For the first time in years, Landon began to unpack what had been buried under power, money, and distractions. Olivia's laughter echoing through the kitchen, her piano playing in the evenings, the way Titan used to rest at her feet like a guardian. Her illness had taken her slowly, and her absence had taken him all at once, and now this little girl, this quiet, misunderstood child, had cracked a shell not even he realized had hardened so deeply around him. When morning came, Ivy awoke and gently nudged Titan awake. He stood and followed her outside, sticking close, no leash necessary. Landon walked behind, watching as she took Titan into the garden, sat under a tree, and began drawing in a small sketchbook. Later that afternoon, reporters showed up. Someone had leaked the story, and now headlines blared. Autistic girl tames billionaire's ferocious dog and refuses the $1 million reward. Cameras were turned away at the gate. Landon had no interest in making this a spectacle. He called Carol aside. Listen, I want to do something. Not as a gesture, not for PR, for real. She blinked. What do you mean? Ivy changed my life, Titan's life. There's a space in my foundation, Olivia's foundation, for programs to support kids like her, sensory gardens, therapy animals, safe spaces. But I never filled that section, because I didn't know where to begin. Carol's eyes filled with tears. Ivy, he continued, gave me a beginning. I want to start there, with her name at the center. You don't need to. I do, he said firmly. And not just that. I'd like you both to come back. Not just today. Often. Titan needs her. I think. So do I. That evening, Ivy came to say goodbye. Titan whimpered, not wanting her to leave. She knelt down, placing her forehead to his. I'll come back, she whispered. You're not alone anymore. Landon swallowed hard. She turned to him, eyes bright, voice quiet but sure. You're not either. It wasn't a dramatic farewell, no slow music, no grand hugs, just a feeling of change, of healing, of something rare and real. As the car pulled away, Titan sat at the gate, watching until they were out of sight. Then he turned, calm and at peace, and walked beside Landon into the house. That night, Landon didn't sleep with a bourbon in hand or paperwork scattered across his bed. He sat beside Titan and stared at a photograph of Olivia on the mantel, finally ready to remember, to feel, to live. And when he closed his eyes, he whispered to himself, "Thank you, Ivy.